Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we now open the floor to public comments on agenda items. Do we have any public comments this evening? Okay, there being no public comments, we will move on to recognitions.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. Our first recognition we're going to provide is on behalf of the Board of Education and the administration, is going to be to a staff member in terms of the Diamond Award. So I'm going to invite Karen Gonzalez up to share her nomination for her colleague.
Oh, it's already up here. All right, I'm Karen Gonzalez. I'm the speech language pathologist at the intermediate school, and it is my honor and privilege to nominate Kate Kuznetsov on behalf of the WOAS Student Services team for her extraordinary work as a special education teacher. Kate, or as we affectionately call her, Miss K in the building, goes above and beyond just teaching her students. Her kindness and patience is evident the moment you talk to her, and she's incredibly supportive to her students, her team members, parents, and the general education teachers that she works with. She has incredible empathy and compassion for her job. Her students have made amazing progress in working with her and are so fortunate to have her as their teacher. We would also like to recognize Kate for her exceptional dedication to language access and support for our school community. Kate has become a vital bridge between students, teachers, and families, ensuring that language is never a barrier to understanding, growth, and opportunity. Whether it's helping a student feel confident, navigating a new language, or ensuring parents can communicate their hopes and concerns to teachers, Kate does it all with patience, compassion, and professionalism. Thanks to Kate, families feel heard, students feel supported, and teachers are able to connect more deeply with every member of their classroom communities. That kind of work may not always make headlines, but it changes lives. You're the best, Kate. You're welcome to say a few words if you like.
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to say thank you so much. I know it's from the whole team, and I am just so appreciative to work with such an amazing team. You guys and the other few that were not able to come here inspire me every single day. So thank you so much.
You can go shake the hands. In addition to having remarkable staff in Diamond Lake School District 76, we also have students who go above and beyond. And this evening, we're going to recognize some of our students who have gone above and beyond. So I'd like to call Mrs. Collette and Mr. Peterson up to recognize our students for the Above and Beyond Awards this evening.
We are so excited to recognize some amazing intermediate and middle school students tonight for the Above and Beyond Award. The first student I would like to highlight is fourth grader Addison Gadd. Leading up to our spelling bee before winter break, she told me she studied tirelessly for many hours for the spelling bee. Well, it paid off. After multiple intense rounds with other fantastic spellers, she won the WOAS Spelling Bee on the word psyche. For the record, I don't think I could have spelled that word, so it was pretty amazing.
And our spelling bee was held last Wednesday in the midst of that little dusting of a snowstorm that we had impromptu that morning. So kind of a crazy morning, but we did end up with an all Nemanja 1-2 finish with our spelling bee. Olivia, our 8th grader, took on, I think there were four 6th graders and herself. So she took on them and came out on top with the words galleon and swaggering, both words I don't know how to put into a sentence. And then and then followed up by her little brother Patrick being able to spell discipline. So you guys, I know Olivia, you came close to winning in the past, right? Okay, I think Paul might have gotten you last year. Gotcha. But she was real close here last year. She came out on top this year, and I think you guys set a big precedent for your littlest brother here, who's got some big shoes to fill when you get out of here this year. So, just want to say congratulations. It was really cool, and you guys did an awesome job. So thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations to both our Diamond Award winner and our Above and Beyond. Mr. Hanson would love to grab some pictures before anybody leaves. So if you could just come on up, we'll grab some photographs first.
Fantastic. That wraps up our presentations or our recognitions for the evening. We understand that that is a portion of the meeting you are all likely here for. You are more than welcome to stay, but if you would like to get home and maybe beat the possible snow, we completely understand. So have a fantastic evening. Congratulations. It's so great to see all of you. Okay, we will now move on to the superintendent and administrative report.
Excellent, thank you. This evening, we are excited to update the board. Good evening. It's hard to top those award winners, but we'll give it a shot. Updating the Board of Education this evening on our mid-year progress for each of the district goals. As we start off this evening, sorry, Mr. Hanson, I'm jumping in quicker than, okay. Perfect, thank you. As we start off this evening, we just wanted to, as we talk about updating the Board of Education related to the goals, thank you, Mr. Hanson. All of the goals are anchored in how we can successfully live our mission every day to embrace, empower, and excel each child each day. So to kick us off, Mr. Hanson's going to open with a video of how we bring this vision to practice. So this evening, we'll dive a little bit deeper as a cabinet team to provide more details and specifics on how we're monitoring our progress at this point in the year and how we're setting ourselves up for additional action steps so we can continue to live our mission for the remainder of the school year.
So with our continuous improvement, one of the things that we have been focusing on is learning by doing. Sorry, which is DeForce. And this is focusing on the key step in any effective improvement process is, of course, having an honest assessment of the current reality and being able to then put forth the diligent efforts that it takes to continue to determine those truths and make the improvements. So here we are at our time for a mid-year review, and we started with sort of a larger picture with our video, looking through the telescope, and now taking it down to the microscope and being able to look at specific data points. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Cunningham, who will start to do some of the data dig.
So our first goal was professional learning communities, which we saw in the presentation, and really we've worked over the last year or so to ensure that that time is strategic. Our teachers have common plan time daily as a grade level team, and so really making sure, starting with one time a week, it's extraordinarily focused time on really what we've been answering is that second bullet point, which are clear expectations for what we want all students to know and be able to do. That's really what we've been wrestling through. And of course, they can meet and they collaborate all throughout other times of the week, but really we're taking that time, and the board saw in December, we looked at some of those proficiency scales. That's really what they're wrestling through this year, is to make sure we know exactly what the high level is that we want and that we understand across the grade level when and where that's going to be taught. And so some of our teams have really run with that, and they're already moving into the phase of assessment and redesigning that, and that's the next phase of what we'll do, and that's going to lead to some great reporting, but it all comes through that professional learning community. So some of the data just to look at fall to winter, this is showing STAR projected growth. So really what you're looking at is percentage of students that are making what we consider typical growth, 1 year's growth in 1 year's time is essentially what you're looking at there. And Diamond Lake's reading is not totally fair because that does not include early literacy. So that number 55 is actually really closer to the 73% that they have in math, but it just only captures some of the first and second graders that are there. But overall, we look at that, we look for any trends that may exist, both in what we're seeing students growing in 1 year's time. And really this goes back to the last slide of, are we teaching things at the right level of rigor and the right sequence to capture what a measure like STAR uses, where it tries to predict and change the content to what they think students should be seeing in the winter versus the fall. So we look at all those pieces to see, are we aligned? So these are great data points that show us, and then STAR Lectura is referring to the reading test. STAR Mathematica is referring to a very small percentage of students that take STAR Math in Spanish, just because it's a better measure. You can see 58.3 stays at the district level because at intermediate school, I believe it was one student that took it, so it did not mess with the percentages, in case you had questions there. With that, really the message is no one creates success alone. Our teams are working extraordinarily hard to really raise the rigor of what they're doing. They're putting, in many of our classes, they've put scales in front of students and begin to have those conversations about what students can do to show that proficiency. And as we go through that, we reflect. And so as a PAC team, as a leadership team, really asking some of these questions, it's based on data and the evidence, some of the same things the board saw. These questions are really an example of the guiding reflection questions conducted with all the leadership team in PAC, and really through thoughtful data and evidence-driven reflection. Updates were made to the PLC goal. Originally, when we talked to the board, it was focused on assessment, and we decided we really need to focus on understanding what we want all students to learn at high levels. So both those things are happening, but that comes through the reflection process, and it's really been an exciting time at PLCs, to say the least. So with that, I believe I'm turning it back over to Dr. Knoll.
Thank you, Dr. Cunningham. Dr. Klipp unfortunately could not be here this evening, but I am going to attempt to do justice to what she would share related to PBIS. What I will say related to this goal in particular, it's about how do we foster rich learning environments based on creating positive behavior interventions and supports and having those really in place. So our two action steps were frequent, specific, and positive feedback systems and interventions to strengthen learning environments for all students and stakeholders, and to utilize that data at a building level, the PBIS data, to really drive decision-making at a school level. So what you see up here in front of you is the minors and majors for the entirety of the district. You'll see the blue bar is the minors from the 24-25 school year comparative to this year, 25-26. You'll see the yellow bar is the majors from 24-25 versus the green bar being the majors from 25-26. What you'll notice in particular is the minors increased in September and October, really decreased significantly come November and December. It's setting up those expectations and helping to reteach clearly for students what those expectations are through those minors to be able to definitely prevent the behavior to continue long-term across the board. So that increase, or what you see there, is really an intentional focus on helping students to understand what those behaviors are so that hopefully those things get nipped into the bud and students can get taught those expectations early, and then they sustain that throughout the school year. I do feel like the biggest celebration as you look at this data is when you look at our majors from last year comparative to this year. They are basically cut in half in many instances. What that means is that students are learning those appropriate behaviors and they're not progressing into significant behaviors that would constitute what we would call a major referral. So what our teachers are doing, what our teacher teams are doing, what our PBIS teams are doing at a building level is paying off, and we were seeing that with the overall district data. Building by building, though, each of our buildings are looking at the very specific building level data and then seeing what are those minor and majors that are coming up more frequently. Is it tardies in our middle school? Is it specific, defiance behaviors? What is it? And is it often happening in certain locations? Is it happening consistently on the playground, or is it happening consistently in the classroom, so we can identify where things are happening, what's occurring, and how we can better support students to understand appropriate behaviors in those moments. So as a PAC team and as a leadership team, we went through doing some serious reflection related to this and looking specifically at how effectively are PBIS expectations being taught and reinforced. I love it coming back from winter break, that reteaching opportunity when the students actually tell us, we know this. I'm like, that's great. That's great that we're doing the reteaching and the students are saying, we know this. That means those expectations have been clear. How are adults using data to guide interventions rather than reteaching behaviors? Just making sure that we have the right, if it's check in, check out, what interventions do we need to have in place for students, and do we have those systems of support ready? And then what practices should we strengthen to improve consistency and climate across our schools? So again, we reflected as a leadership team first, then the district-wide PAC team did the reflection on PBIS related to this, and then we made minor tweaks to our action steps to make sure we are set up for success in the second half of the year with this goal. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rogers to update us on our third goal.
All right, so our last goal is PEEF presence, and really the goal is to increase attendance so all can engage in learning daily. We know how critical it is to have consistent student attendance and how that directly supports student academic achievement, social emotional development, and long-term student success. So, when students attend school regularly, they experience continuous instruction, they have built stronger relationship with their peers, and they are better positioned to master grade level standards. So this slide really shows our student attendance data for students that missed 10 or more days. And I'll point out from the 24-25 data, we ended the year with 395 students missing 10 or more days. Right now through December, we're sitting at 97. So we're really making a really good concentrated effort towards this goal, while still acknowledging that there's been some significant jumps in November and December. And really, while it's not unexpected, it gives us a refined focus for the second half of the year and some good targets. But we are on a good trajectory right now. But by analyzing this data, it gives our principals better tools to implement intervention strategies for our students to really identify barriers that they may have for entry to school. And one of the end goals is to really determine the cause and effect that chronic absenteeism has on overall student performance, finding and determining that correlation that chronic absenteeism has on our students, so we can put appropriate interventions in place. But also, we're still not only analyzing student data, we're looking at our staff data as well. So we've seen staff absenteeism decrease by 6% right now, and really by having staff more present and engaged with students, we know that nothing really replaces their teacher in school. Substitutes help, but having the teacher in there is really what helps progress them forward. So when we brought up our reflection questions, these were used to guide our conversation with our leadership team at our mid-year retreat, and also we use as a discussion point for our PAC meeting. And some of the factors shared in the reflections were these positive contributions to student attendance rates have really came with the personalized phone calls we've been making home. Schools are sending out a ton of communications regarding attendance, so we're trying to blanket everybody with just understanding the importance attendance has for their students' education. And also our schools are able to drill down for specific students and how they might have barriers that exist, whether social, emotional, economic, that would prevent them from having consistent attendance. So, but for staff, we believe that they've had a decrease in absenteeism because they've had some accountability with each other. We see there's a lot of cultural influences that have existed on them wanting to be in school more and be there for their colleagues.
With that, I think at this midpoint, while we've shared some numbers and we've talked through a little bit about where we're at right now and where we look ahead, results equal kids, and we know that. And we would just want to make sure that we're cognizant constantly of where we're at, where we're going, and that we don't lose track. So this midpoint allowed us to do some reset related to the action steps for the remainder of the school year. As you know, Mr. Rogers shared that jump in attendance or absenteeism from November to December had us all alarmed. It was great. It was an opportunity for us to say, what do we need to do in terms of not losing track of the phone calls? We might have done them early. Did we slip back? And are there things that we can do? Again, these results are kids, and kids being in the classroom is the best place. Hopefully, no matter what the weather is like, they can be in the classroom. But the results equal kids, and that's what's most important. So when we think about the process and our next steps related to the work we have ahead, the reflection and feedback, we did the district leadership team on January 6th. January 7th, we brought the PAC, which is essentially a superintendent advisory council group of staff members from all three buildings together to do that reflection and provide feedback. In the month of January, the building level leadership teams then are going to do reflections, just like we just shared with you, those reflection questions on the action steps to say what specifically do we need to do at our building in particular. Implementation and monitoring. From January through May, we'll implement those identified updates and we'll continue to monitor student learning and progress data. We'll adjust practices as needed based on feedback and evidence. And then looking ahead in June, while we did the mid-year reset, now at June, we're going to see where are we at then at the end of the year. What does that data say and what did we do? And then what additional goals would we want to create for the upcoming school year? So that'll help guide us into the upcoming school year. With that said, that's a mid-year update for the board, and we would absolutely be happy to answer any questions that any of the board may have. Thank you. And we always have to be reminded they are still developing, like their brains are not fully developed. We have to keep teaching them, not just the academics, but the behaviors, expectations as well. Yeah, thank you. a great question. Particularly for pre-K, I think the half day at times has been definitely something I think we've seen, that there's more frequent absences in pre-K in particular. We can probably associate that with childcare in terms of if you don't have the childcare to pick up midday or not. We have been working through, to the credit of Dr. Klipp, and again, I'm not going to do it justice, she's been keeping track of the reasons why so that we can start to identify if there are barriers that are getting in the way, particularly with mental health for students, particularly with whether it is transportation or care for another sibling who might be sick or need care. She's keeping track of that data to see that at the end of last year, we had 395 students and we're only at 95. While that's not great, if we continue at this rate, we'll be down 100 more students potentially, if not more, that will be in better shape and be in attendance. But yeah, we are continuing to monitor that to see what are those reasons, what are those barriers, and taking it on an individual by individual basis rather than a blanket, just being absent's not good. Yeah, absolutely. Our families do like to take extended trips around the winter break or coinciding with the winter break. I do think because of the messaging that our building principals and our school staff have given about how significant it is that students are present, directly correlated to their academic success, I do think our principals have seen a decline in that in the month of December. I think continuing just to say, that's great. Remember, we return on this day and how important it is for your child to be present. But we also know there's times or extenuating circumstances that students do, and how do we support them if they aren't going to be here so that they are still able to maintain that academic level. But, yeah, thank you.
Anybody else? I just want to reiterate, thank you. I also really enjoyed the video, and I thought that that was like a cool addition. So kudos to.
I figured out about 10 or 15 seconds I wouldn't be
No, I thought that was fantastic, and the video is nice for parents and for community members to watch and kind of get that quick snapshot without necessarily diving deeper into the data. So that was fantastic. Thank you all for putting that together. Okay. Moving on to our business agenda. We only have one item up for action, and that is the omnibus vote agenda. Items under the omnibus vote agenda are considered routine and/or non-controversial and will be approved by one motion. If anyone, board member, staff, administrator, or citizen wishes to have a separate vote on any item or items, that item or items will be pulled from the omnibus vote agenda and voted on separately. Be it resolved that the Diamond Lake 76 Board of Education accepts and approves the omnibus vote agenda items A through D as listed. May I have a motion to approve, please? Yes. That motion is approved. That concludes the business agenda, so it's nice, short and sweet. Moving on to freedom of information requests, we had two, both were fulfilled. For notices and communications, we have the agenda for CEDAL, or no, I'm sorry, there is the agenda for CEDAL, and also there is the notification about the federal E-rate program, where essentially we're required to teach internet safety and have internet protection software in place to block access to harmful images. We have both of those, and we are required to acknowledge that in a public meeting and ask if there's any questions or concerns about internet safety. So do any of you have any questions or concerns? There being no other community members here, we're going to assume they don't have any questions or concerns, but if they do, they should please reach out to the district, and we'd be happy to get those answered for them. There has not been a CEDAL meeting since Gotcha. Fantastic. So then for Notice to Communications, also, we have the December Moment of the Month, which is adorable. And it was lovely to have such fantastic music at our last board meeting. And then we have, bless you, the picture from the Marzano High Reliability Schools Level 3 certified. Congratulations to you, Dr. Cunningham, and to all of the administrators and our building principals and staff. That's fantastic. I hope you guys had a fantastic trip.
I mean, you can't look at
It is very funny. I smiled when I saw that on social media. I was like, Brandon is a giant, and Natalie is very tiny.
I was thinking, because Peter just looks so happy.
He's very happy, and Peter also, I feel like you made your hair a little bit taller. It's okay. Maybe you just have Brandon kneel and everyone else can stand. No, but that's fantastic. Fantastic work. You guys have done just a tremendous job, and it's great to see the progress continue. Okay, sorry, I scrolled too far down in my agenda. We now open the floor to public comments and petitions on non-agenda items. Do we have any public comments or petitions this evening? There being no audience, I'm going to take that as a no. For board discussion, I just have two quick things. We are going to revive the policy committee, which we have had but has been dormant for a while. Erin and I discussed it, and I think we discussed it briefly as a board too, but we thought it would be a good idea to kind of slowly go through some of the board policies with the leadership team and kind of rotate through key ones to review them, just to kind of clean them up, make sure anything that had specific people named are adjusted for, to make them a little bit more generic, and then also just so everybody's on the same page and we have a better overall awareness of the policies. So we have scheduled 2 dates to meet about that. It would be before the February 17th board meeting and then before the May 5th board meeting. We generally just take like 2 board members to do that. If whoever is interested, if you would just let me know. It does not have to be the same people both times. Essentially what we would do is discuss those policies, and then whoever is at that committee meeting would then just do a brief report back to the board. So nothing too onerous. And then looking ahead to next school year, we would try to meet like 3 times during the year just to kind of get a better, I think, handle on the policies and make sure that everything is kind of where we would like it to be and that we all have a better kind of overall understanding. So like I said, if you're interested, just let me know. And then I think I mentioned this to most of you, but we're going to do a board self-evaluation on February 3rd at 5:30. We'll bring in dinner. That's kind of a continuation of what we started this summer, but never really got a chance to finish due to just kind of the timing of it. So hopefully everybody is available then. If you're not, let me know. You're not? Okay. 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 Well, just let me know. And then we will, just kind of meet and walk through things at that point. But also, just so you know, board self-eval is closed session. So that essentially will be a closed session meeting. Anyone have any questions about any of that? Does anyone have anything else for board discussion? Okay, then we do have brief executive session tonight, so we will adjourn to executive session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. May I have a motion to adjourn to executive session, please? Yes. Fantastic, thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. Hopefully you get help.